Last time, I explained Act 2 of Rider Shogun's character story quest and how this character story quest could prove the existence of the multiverse connecting Genshin Impact and Honkai Impact III. In addition to the existence of the bubble universes, another aspect of the multiverse are variants, and I believe that this concept will explain some of the future characters that will make an appearance later in the story of Genshin, one of them being Kusanali, the current Dendro Archon. In this video, I'll be explaining who Kusanali's variant could be, and while I'm at it, predict the story in Sumeru. In fact, that seems like a good place to start. When it comes to predicting the story of a nation, the best place to start would be the reveal trailer. Let's take a look at how Dainsleif describes Chapter 3 of the Archon quest.
The god of wisdom's enemy is wisdom itself, and the oasis of knowledge is a mirage in the desert of ignorance. In the city of scholars, there is a push for folly, yet the god of wisdom makes no argument against it.
The god of wisdom's enemy is wisdom itself. We know Kusanali is the god of wisdom, but the question is, how could the god of wisdom's enemy be wisdom? To understand this more, we need to move on and look into the other stuff he said. Don't worry, we'll get back to this later. He claims that the oasis of knowledge is a mirage in the desert of ignorance. We know that Sumeru will be a mix of desert and forest, so he's saying that Sumeru is a desert of ignorance. According to him, this would mean that Sumeru is lacking knowledge or information, but how is that possible? If Sumeru is known as the nation of wisdom, why would they be lacking knowledge? Well, Dainsleif also stated that the oasis of knowledge is a mirage in Sumeru. A mirage is an optical illusion most commonly found in deserts, but more importantly, it is meant to be a lie. Dainsleif is trying to say that Sumeru has been lying for all these years and they have been pretending to have knowledge. But the question is, who could have started this? Well, he also states, in the city of scholars, there is a push for folly. Folly is basically foolishness or lack of good sense. A push for folly could mean spreading lies, making more people of Sumeru foolish. Yet someone is behind this, but who? Well, we might know thanks to the last line, yet the god of wisdom no makes arguments against it. You would think Kusanali has been causing this from the beginning, spreading lies and withholding the truth, but she's not. She makes no argument against this. She is allowing it, not causing it. I believe there is a group of people in Sumeru that is responsible for the spread of lies in Sumeru. Yae Miko herself states that knowledge is holistically managed as a resource and is not sure if it was the sages or Kusanali's idea. But that does sound rather absurd since, why would knowledge need to be managed as a resource? But there, we get our answer, the sages of Sumeru. They are likely responsible for the spread of lies, the push for folly. And speaking of folly, in the Bible, folly refers to someone who lacks the proper fear or respect for God. This would also explain the first line, the god of wisdom's enemy is wisdom itself. The sages are Kusanali's true enemy, having a lack of respect for her. But what is more interesting is that Kusanali is letting this happen. She could be collaborating with them, but that wouldn't make sense at all. It's more like the sages, having no respect for Kusanali, are using her to rule Sumeru. Does this sound familiar to you guys? If it does, it is because this story has already been told before in Genshin, the corrupt nobility in ACairconditioner. Here, we're going into some ACairconditioner lore, but not all of it, just the part that is relevant to this video. To give a quick summary, after Aburaku finished the construction of the Dainichi Mikoshi, the corrupt nobles took over and ruled ACairconditioner. During the time when they ruled ACairconditioner, they used children, known as the Sun Children. These Sun Children were now competent to rule ACairconditioner alone and were told what the nobles tell them to do. In other words, they were manipulated and used so the nobles would profit. Once a Sun Child reached a certain age, they will be sacrificed in a ceremony called the Rite of Solar Return, and a new child will be picked to become the Sun Child. That is why there are multiple Sun Children. You see the correlation between the two? The sages could be compared with the corrupt nobles, and the Sun Children could be compared with Kusanali. This is further proven by the fact that out of the 7 Archons, Kusanali is the youngest, being 500 years old. Now, the sacrifice could be a foreshadowing of Kusanali's death, but I highly doubt it. Now that we explored the possible story of Sumeru's Archon quests, let's get into Kusanali herself. To understand more about Kusanali, I believe we need to look at the story of the Viridescent Venerer. Here's the story of the Viridescent Venerer from this artifact set and the weapon, the Viridescent Hunt. The Viridescent Venerer was an orphan but raised in the woods as the Hunter. Over time, she was known as the Queen of Hunters, and some interesting facts were that she took naps under a tree and left the fragrance of flowers to hide her human scent. One day, she met a boy, but when the boy was killed by a monster, she embarked on a path of vengeance and was known to be the hunter of monsters. Now, this story may appear to be straightforward, but we get some interesting facts from this artifact set. We were told of a disaster that had ruined an ancient kingdom, and during this disaster, the god of woods had died. In addition, she met the boy, who was also blind, under a tree that she often napped under, before he died. I will be occasionally coming back to this later, but next, let's take a look at some of the monsters in the living beings sections in the archive. First, let's take a look at the large dendro slime. It was stated that this slime was somewhat similar to the wildflowers, hiding to trick and hunt its prey. It was often regarded as a slime that has been parasitized by a special plant. It was also stated that these slimes may have a special medicinal value to some cultures. Next, let's look at the Dendrosamatro. It is stated that the grudge stirs beneath that mask as hateful whispers come forth, poison ivy sprouts. Lastly, we'll be looking into the whopper flowers, and one thing that is common in every description of the whopper flowers is that they are known to be mimetic plants. In fact, the main event in the 2.3 update, Shadows Amidst Snowstorms, explores this topic. In the climax of the story, Act 2 of the story quest, we discover a strong whopper flower known as the Fellflower, who mimicked Albedo. And then in Act 3, Paimon makes a story inspired by the Fellflower.
Once upon a time, there was an evil researcher who went into the mountains and did a crazy experiment on whopper flowers to transform their appearance. After a lot of pain and suffering, the whopper flowers finally took on a human form. Then they stood by the side of the mountain to wait for unsuspecting bypassers. To whoever spoke to them, they would ask some questions such as, "Who am I? Who are you?" If the bypasser got the wrong answer, the last sound they'd make would be a yelp before the whopper flower ate them alive in one bite.
After the whopper flowers eat someone, they would turn into that person.
In other words, the whopper flowers would ambush and then completely replace their victims.
And then adopt their newfound identity. This is possible foreshadowing of Kusanali and her role in the story, including how she could have been the current Dendro Archon. With all this information, we can get even more theories on who Kusanali could be, down to her playstyle. We know that Kusanali is known as the God of Wisdom thanks to Dainsleif, and multiple translations state that she is the God of Flowers. Zhongli tells us that she is the youngest of the current Archons at 500 years old. Yamiko also confirms the gender of the Dendro Archon being a girl. The name Kusanali could possibly be from one of the Buddhist poems of the Jataka tales aptly named Kusanali Jataka. To quickly explain, the Jataka tales tell the story of countless births of the Buddha. Specifically, in the Kusanali Jataka, the Buddha was a grass fairy, and there was a tree fairy who was about to lose their home because of a carpenter. To save the tree fairy's home, they made it appear as if the tree was rotten, and therefore, the tree wasn't cut and the tree fairy's home was saved. Kusanali is associated with the trees, flowers, the grass, a female Archon almost referred to as a queen. These descriptions perfectly align with the story of the Viridescent Venerer. The Venerer, being the Queen of Hunters, could connect with the fact that Kusanali is the Dendro Archon. The fragrance of flowers connects with the fact that Kusanali is the God of Flowers. The tree of the Kusanali Jataka could correlate with the Venerer sleeping under a tree. Not just that, but the story of the Kusanali Jataka and the Viridescent Venerer could reveal the identity of the previous Dendro Archon. First, we know that the Dendro Archon died during the Cataclysm 500 years ago. It is very likely that the God of Woods that was mentioned in the Viridescent Venerer artifact set was the previous Dendro Archon. However, from the knowledge of the large Dendro slime and the story of the Kusanali Jataka, I believe that the God of Woods is still alive. From the Kusanali Jataka, The grass fairy made the tree appear to be rotten and dead to save the tree fairy. Also, the large dendro slime has been stated to hide and appear somewhat similar to a whopper flower. Now we can get into the living beings category and start stating more correlations. Kusanali is the god of flowers and is likely correlated with the whopper flower. The whopper flower being a mimetic flower could pair with the fact that the dendro slimes hide. This would explain that the god of woods is still alive, hiding somewhere, and entrusted Kusanali, the god of flowers, to fill in this new role as the Dendro Archon. But the question remains, who is the god of woods, the previous Dendro Archon? If we head back to the large Dendro slime, we would know that the Dendro slime was parasitized and may have some sort of medicinal value. So this would mean that the god of woods will be a doctor, or have some sort of knowledge of medicine and have a Dendro vision. This man is Baishu. First, let's look at Baishu's name. He is named after the plant aptly named Baishu, also known as the Tractylose macrocephala, which is a plant that is used for traditional Chinese medicine. Next, according to herbalist Gui, it is revealed that Baishu has an unknown illness, which goes back to the parasitized dendro slime. In addition, Shichi's character story 5 states that while Baishu is a doctor of great skill, he was not a man of high caliber or great courage, going back to the fact that he is in hiding just like the dendro slime. In addition, that same story that states that Baishu took Chi-Chi in, possibly having some ulterior motive, is related to his pursuit of eternal life. Now, while his ailment is unknown, I believe that this ailment is possibly revealed as well. The blind boy that the Queen of Hunter met under the same tree is likely Baishu, the god of woods. The blind boy and Baishu are likely the same person. And from there, I think we could guess both possible playstyles of both Baishu and Kusanali. Starting with Kusanali, I believe as the Queen of Hunters and the signature weapon being the Veridicent Hunt, I believe that she will be a Dendro element bow user. In addition, thanks to both the Dendro Samatro, which I believe refers to the Queen of Hunters' grudge against monsters, and the Fellflower fight, she could have some sort of poison element. Both the Fellflower and Dendro Samatro are known having poison attacks, and knowing that Kusanali could be the Queen of Hunters, I would believe that Kusanali could have some sort of poison attack. For Baishu, I think a Dendro element catalyst user would make sense. Both Lisa and La Senora graduated from the Sumeru Academia, and both are catalyst users. In addition, because Baishu is a doctor, I believe that he could be a healer. Now we know more about Kusanali and the fact that the previous Dendro Archon is Baishu, we can finally get into the variant theory. To begin the comparison and the prediction of the Dendro Archon's variants, we need to know the basic concept of variants. To quickly explain, variants are when two characters from different universes or timelines share similarities, either roles or designs or even both. Examples of variants include Raiden Mei and Raiden A/Raiden Shogun. Both are masters of lightning, and the Raiden Shogun weekly boss fight looks very similar to Raiden Mei when she is the Hershey of Thunder. Next is Yae Miko and Yae Sakura. They have very similar designs with the pink hair, and they share the same surname, Yae. So, with that out of the way, let's look into which Honkai characters could be variants of Kusanali and Baishu. While this video is meant to focus on Kusanali, to understand her Honkai variant, we need to know about Baishu's Honkai variant. For people who don't wish to get spoiled, I recommend playing through Elysian Realm and reading the visual novel, The Second Key. If you're not concerned about spoilers or have done that already, then we can move on. I believe that his Honkai variant is the 7th rank flame chaser of the previous era and also known as the Pioneer, Su. First, let's state the obvious. Both Su and Baishu are doctors and are looking for a cure for ailments. Baishu is looking to cure the sickness while Su looks to find a cure for the Honkai disease. In addition, going back to the Virtus Venera story, when the Queen of Hunters met a blind boy under a tree, in the Elysian Realm, Mei meets Su for the first time under a tree, and he is shown with his eyes closed. In addition, going back to the Jataka tales, stories about the Buddha, Su's codename is Bodhi, named after the Bodhi tree, where the Buddha sat under to attain enlightenment, and his signets, known as the Signets of Bodhi, are all Buddhist phrases. Not just that, but Su created a bubble universe known as the Seed of Sumeru. The comparison is pretty obvious there. Now, with this in mind, we can finally uncover who Kusanali's Honkai variant could be and possibly learn about her possible character design. Let's take a look at the list to figure out Kusanali's Honkai variant. She should have a correlation with the flowers, bows, and trees. In addition, just like how Kusanali knows Baishu, she should have some sort of correlation with Su. With all that information, I believe that Kusanali's Honkai variant is Bianca Durandal Ategina. I'll just call it Durandal for this video. Let's look at the correlations. Kusanali, being the god of flowers, could be correlated with what used to be Durandal's signature weapon for a long time, the Abyss Flower. Just like how Kusanali was entrusted to lead Sumeru in Baishi's place, Su entrusts Durandal with the Seed of Sumeru. Just like how Kusanali, the Queen of Hunters, often naps under a tree, in Chapter 25 EX, we see Durandal meditating under a tree in the Seed of Sumeru. However, Durandal is often seen using on land, so how is that correlated with a bow? If you look at Durandal's battlesuit called Dea and Korra, one of her attack animations shows her in a form that appears to be a bow. Not just that, but she got the Dea and Korra battlesuit after being entrusted the Seed of Sumeru, as shown in the end of the second key visual novel. Not just that, but we also have Sumeru's story to be considered as well. If Kusanali is manipulated and controlled by the sages, Durandal used to be manipulated and continued to help Ado until chapter 27, the second to last chapter in the main story of Honkai Impact. Not just that, but going back to the story of the Viridescent Era, specifically, the Viridescent Hunt mentions that the Queen of Hunters does not know who their parents were. Durandal did not know who her parents were until chapter 28, after she was sent away by Ado. In addition, just like Kusanali is the youngest Archon of the current 7, Durandal is the youngest S-rank Valkyrie of Shixal. So if Durandal is the Honkai variant of Kusanali, it's possible that they could have similar designs. These are my thoughts and predictions on what may happen in Sumeru and my prediction on Kusanali. Again, these are just my theories and predictions, don't take them for a fact, and if you have any thoughts of your own, or questions, leave them in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe to see more Genshin content. ACairconditioner signing out. Have a good one, guys.